Hi guys, Kirk and Jay here with Kirk Giordano Plastering. I'm actually on one of Jay's jobs. Here to prove a point, guys. I've had a few people in the last 2-3 weeks call me and say, man, I got concrete, I've got cinder block walls. One guy said he was going to put wire all the way around it. He says, look, I want to wrap the wire. Should the wire wrap all the way around, or should I stop it? Or can I put the wire and then put the corners? So I'm going to answer that question. This might be a long drawn out video, so unless you got anything better, relax. Okay, number one, the fellow who said, gee, should I put wire on? He said he had a concrete wall, and so this would happen. If you were to put the wire here, now this wire, if you hug the wall, that'll be okay, but here's the way this wire goes on. And so you'd have to put a nail here, a nail here, a nail here, a nail here, here. That would be a lot of wires. Concrete and cinder block, it is simply not necessary to wire it. Even if you use a 3.4, it is not necessary, guys. Never encountered an instance where it was. If it's that bad, tear it down. Okay, to try to wrap the wire, because the fellow says, well, I'm going to wrap the wire. I'm going to do it anyway. And I said, well, you can do that, man, but I've only been doing this 30 years, and I'll tell you, I've tried everything at least twice. Here's what happens if you wrap it. Okay, now you're going to be putting concrete nails. What's a concrete nail? I'm going to show you in a minute. You'll put a concrete nail here, here, here. It'll take you about an hour. It would take me about an hour. And then if you try to put a corner aid on that, what happens is it's all wiggly because you're going a corner aid over wire. It's a nightmare, guys. How do I know? I've done it. I don't do that anymore. Here's what you can do. I mean, if you want, you can put a corner aid on it, and you can put a concrete nail here, 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 and 3 on this side. And that'll give you a nice, clean, even corner. But that's not what today's video is about. Today, I'm going to show you how to make a corner without the corner aid. And by the way, guys, here's a little bucket, and what this little bucket has is concrete nails. Concrete nails we use generally are these 1/2 inch. If you use this 1 inch, that's easier to hold, but you'll blow the corners out. And one guy says, well, it's concrete, it has no corners. And I told him, guys, you'll blow it out, trust me, I've been doing this stuff too long. Here's what happens, guys. Okay, what is this? This is a magnet. You can get this online at Bond Tools. You can go to Westside Building Supplies, get this magnet. Why do you need a magnet? Because if you try to put these concrete nails in, just for an example, guys, like this, and tap it, your fingers are too fat. And plus, I've bloodied enough and lost enough fingernails when I was young trying to do this goofy crap. It doesn't work. So here's what you do. You get a magnet. If you're going to do corners, guys, you get a magnet and you put it on. And here's what happens when you put a concrete nail into concrete. You blow it out. And yeah, I can blow out about 10 different other spots to prove a point, but you get the idea. If it's cinder block, well, then you put the concrete nails into the grout lines. It won't blow the grout out. And that is how you adhere that. I've done a few videos on that already, so I won't repeat it on here. What I am going to do is show you guys something as far as how to make a corner by yourself. Now Jay is with me, and what I prefer, guys, is a piece of metal. And I do have a piece of metal. I've got a Darby I can put here. I've got rods, 10-foot rods that we screed off buildings to make sure that they're level every 10 feet by 1/4 inch. But again, that's not what this video is about. This video is, I'm going to show you how we can put a 2x4 here and make a straight corner. We're going to put some mud here. I'm going to rob Peter to pay Paul, so to speak, and fill this up. And when this gets hard, we just pull this away. And of course, the stud has got to be wet. When I was union 30 years ago, we would gun all of our work. I worked with 20 other guys, and we worked behind pumps. And my buddy Fred Smith, he'd be shooting it. And we'd come to a house. Say we did about 10 houses a day. We'd be blowing it on there. And we'd come to an area where the lathers forgot to put a corner. Oh, Fred would say, I was usually the Darby man, so he'd tell somebody else, hey, go to the truck, get me a corner. They go to the truck, say, man, I got no corners. You say, oh, dang. Go ask one of those carpenters for a 2x4, not a 2x6 because they're too heavy. A 8-foot 2x4 or a 10-foot if nothing else. And what he would do is he'd take a 2x4, wet it, and just like so. Why do you wet it? Because if you don't wet it, when you put it against the wall here and you pull the stucco will come off because it'll suck into this. I'd always catch him doing this stuff too, and I'd say, dude, what are you doing? He'd say, I'm looking to see that the 2x4 is not tweaked or twisted, because if it is, when I do my corner, that's going to be tweaked or twisted. Anyway, to prove a point, I'm going to go ahead and put a little bit of mud on this right here. Again, Jason already did all this, and I actually was working around the corner on one of my jobs while Jay was working here. But I told him if he got a job where I could answer a question to let me know. And he called me and said, well, Dad, I have this job and it has a corner. Did you still want to come over? And I thought, no, but I will, because I promised the fella I'd show it to him. So what we want to do, guys, and now granted, this wall is concrete. How do you know it's concrete? Well, you can look at it. It's form boards. They put a bunch of boards here and they poured it. These are form lines. This is not cinder block. But the same thing applies. You have to apply enough stucco, otherwise these form boards will show. I get asked that so often. People say, hey, how much stucco do I got to put on? And I'll tell them, you got to put on at least a ½ inch, and if the form boards or the grout is really sticking out, a little bit more, man. It doesn't take that long. All you do is you're trying to fill it, because if it rains and you put it on, here's something, guys. If you put it on real thin, like say this, and then you try to float that, when it rains, you'll see all that grout. So what we want to do is put it on thick. Another thing, what I'm doing here too is we are doing the cap here. Jay already put a coat on that cap. So I go up like so when I do my cement. So see that right there? Now I take this way. It gives me a stronger cap. And no, we are not wiring any of these caps because it's not necessary. If we tell folks, hey, gee, we'll wire it, and that's usually because of a reason, like you'll have a joint there, like say hardy board. I got a barbecue coming up where it's all hardy board, and I told the guy, I said, well, I'm going to put corners here. And he said, the other guy said he wasn't going to put corners. And I said, well, the other guy doesn't understand that. It's kind of like two pieces of sheetrock. You got hardy board here, and if you don't put a corner there, you're going to get a hairline crack every single time. So that instance, we will put corner 8 on here. No. Okay, getting back to what I was trying to say. First thing I'm going to do is, because I'm going to put this stud on by myself right here, I'm going to fill this wall up right here. All I'm doing here is I'm giving myself some mud. There's about 10 different ways to do this, guys. I'm just putting this mud here because I'm going to use this mud to make my corner, and I don't want Jay to help me, otherwise it defeats the purpose. Now, let's see. This stud is kind of, looks like the termites had a good meal here. This side is pretty good. And remember, guys, if this stud is dry, when I put this here, it is going to come right off. Now what I want to do is I want to go about a ½ inch corner. And I'm going to hold this with my knee. Hey. Now I'm holding it with my knee. Now I'm going to take this mud I just put here and fill this up. Now you guys, if you're not really experienced, probably have a hard time doing this, but I do this every day. All right, now I'm holding it with my knee. I'm holding it with my knee and I'm trying not to get dirty at the same time. How about that? All right. Put it on like so. Get that bottom. All right. A little bit more right here. Yoink. Right at the top. Oh. Okay, so we're going to take it up one more time. Squeeze it. Take this, come that way. Now all I'm doing, guys, is making that transition where I put all that Humpty mud, squaring it off a little bit. We are going to float this. All right, now when I pull this piece of 2x4, can this whole thing fall? Sure it can. I've done it where a few times it's fallen. But for the sake of showing you guys, hopefully it won't. Okay, now, to pull the stud, you're going to push down or push forward and sideways and up. You don't have to look at it, guys. I mean, if I pull this way, what happens? The whole corner comes off. So I'm not even going to look at it, but I'm going to pull that way, away from my work and upward. It should have stuck. It stuck like magic. How about that? I'm an artist. Okay, now, if you come on this side, take a peek there, Jay. Now that side is groovy. All I got to do is this I'm going to make by hand. Now we got a nice clean edge there, guys. We let that set about 15 minutes, and what Jay is doing right now is he already started floating. I'm going to come over here, Let's see what bucket you got. Okay, again, for the sake of showing you what Jay's doing. Actually, Jay did this whole thing. I just wanted to do that corner, and that corner's not really ready, but a fella like me with so much time in can handle it. All right, just for the sake of showing you guys something, this is wet. This wall is wet. A lot depends on this, guys. If you're in Pennsylvania, Canada, or someplace where it's really cold, it's midwinter, you're going to have a hard time doing this. This wall, we are in beautiful Oakland, California right now, and this wall, it's about 65 degrees. If it was 100 degrees, I'd be saturating this wall over and over and over. Otherwise, as fast as I go to apply it, it sucks right into it. So it's not ready right now, but I can make this work. I need at least another 20 minutes to let it set. But for the sake of showing you folks now, what we're doing is we're going to float it. What does floating means? That means there's sand in this cement plaster. Cement plaster is another word for stucco. People keep calling me saying, hey, what should I buy, stucco or cement plaster? It's the same thing, guys. I call it mud too. Mud, cement plaster, stucco. It's the same terminology, the same stuff. Portland cement mixed with sand. If you guys go to Lowe's or Home Depot, you'll buy Rapid Set, and it has sand and the Portland cement and stucco in there already. All you do is add water. What we do is we buy Portland cement. You see the truck right over there. You want to focus over there. That truck, we put two yards of sand in it. That's like 4,500 pounds of sand. We put our Portland in that mixer, and we put the sand. But you guys, again, I'm asked this question all the time. Should I buy sand separately? We're professionals. We buy our sand and cement at Westside Building Supply or any of the other plastering material yards such as Close, Calply, you name it. Okay, to get back on what I was talking about. I'm going to float this right now, although it's not ready. Now, if I float this way, what's going to happen, guys? All you do-it-yourself weekend warriors who watch what we do, if I float this way, I'm going to pull my corner right off. So I'm going to float this way because I want it to adhere. Now, I'm going to hit it real light because if I hit it too hard, it's going to come right off because technically, guys, it's not ready to go. We just take it sideways, and because I'm hitting it while it's wet, I need a clean float. I take this part here and I just make my cap. I need a clean float, otherwise it's so wet that it'll fall. My advice to you guys who are trying to do this, let it set. How do you know if it's set? If you put your finger in it and it's wet like that, guys, it ain't set. When you put your finger on it and it doesn't move, now you can be sloppy. You can have less experience, and close your eyes and float it, and it won't fall down. But right now, I want to prove a point because I got another job I got to go to. And I'm going to let Jay finish his own job, but I did promise the fella I'd show him this, so I am doing it. Here we go. Okay, the top. We float the top, and yeah, I'm going slow as molasses, guys, because it is wet. Otherwise, I can float this whole thing in a matter of minutes. The whole wall, I can float this whole wall in about 5 minutes. Okay, you clean the float, get all this stucco, cement plaster, mud, whatever you want to call it, guys. You get it off. Now you see where I'm going with this, guys. And when you're using a float, guys, use the whole float. I see guys like this, they'll be using just a tip. We call it the toe, or they'll use the heel. I mean, you'll spin your wheels doing this, guys. What you want to do is use the whole float, kind of like you snowboarder guys. You use the whole board. Okay, watch this. I'm using the whole float. You see that whole float, the whole thing. I'm not just using a little heel, toe or the heel. The same applies with the top. Okay, you want to get that top clean. Don't mess around and do this kind of stuff, guys. You don't want to do that. You want to use the whole float. Okay, you take that whole float, you put it down here, then you spin it around. You take that whole float and come down, guys. Use the tools to the maximum benefit. That means the whole thing, and yeah, that does take practice, guys. And here's another thing, guys. The reason I can make this look easy is because of two things. For me, it is, and because Jason already mixed up some good mud, or actually, Lou did. Jason's spreading. This is his job. Again, use the whole float. See how I'm using that whole float, guys? Not dicking around and messing around like this. The whole thing, guys. It gives you straighter lines. It makes the job faster. And once you learn how to coordinate with your tools, you'll get it. Again, most of you weekend warriors who do stucco work, a lot of you guys have concrete just like this. You'll learn to do it right, guys, if you use the whole float. Anyway, I'm going to give this about 10 more minutes because even I can't mess with that right there because that's ready to go, guys. It's still too cold, and Jay has saturated these walls prior, so we're kind of wet. So anyway, Jay's going to continue floating this whole wall here, and if you're done with everything, then you come back when it's dry. And what I'm doing right there is I'm throwing some of that mud off of here. You guys think, what the heck is he doing? Flicking that float. That's just another way to keep it dry because I want it pretty. Anyway, guys, you see where that's going, and you got any holidays, let it set and come back and get them out because I still have technically a half hour to 40 minutes where I can play with this wall, but I don't have the time. Anyway, guys, my name is Kirk. Jason on the camera. We thank you for watching, and as usual, we'll see you guys on the next one.